Hey everybody, I am Katrina, and in this video I am talking about Fear Street 1978 and Fear Street 1666, which is part 2 and 3 of the Fear Street trilogy. Before I give you all my thoughts and opinions and how I feel about the last 2 movies in the trilogy, please click that bell, click that subscribe button, subscribe to the channel, share the channel with everybody you know, because why not? I think I'm pretty cool. I think you guys like me, right? So don't forget to do that. So I'm going to start off with Fear Street 1978, which is the second movie in the installment. And I think I should make it clear because it's been going around that they're solo movies. And while they are technically solo movies, they also intertwine. So it would make sense to watch every movie in order: 94, 78, 16, 66. But anyway, in 1978, we are introduced to Ziggy Berman. And this is July 19, 1978. And we're at Nightwing Summer Camp, which is kind of very remnants of, you know, the camps where you got the log cabins, you got split between boys and girls, different like house colors, whatever. And she's pretty much accused by a girl, I believe her name was Sheila, from Sunnyvale, who said Ziggy stole something, and they pretty much had her tied up and was going to burn her. They made a reference to Sarah Fier, you know, she was the witch that caused all of these bad things to happen to Shadyside. I was a little annoyed by the scene because it was bullying. And yes, Ziggy's disposition, her personality is like, I don't know if I'll be friends with her, but I am not a fan of bullying. I don't like bullies. I feel like the world would be a better place without bullies. So anyway, I felt like they were bullying her, and I didn't really like that. And I felt like the camp counselors, they were the ones that was in charge of some of the Sunnyvale, you know, campers. The counselors should seem like, you see this, like they almost really hurt this girl, and y'all didn't do anything. So that really irritated me. But anyway, we get to the story, and there's a nurse there whose daughter is mentioned, Nurse Lane, whose daughter Ruby Lane is mentioned in the 1994 video. And she seems like she go crazy, and she tries to stab Tommy and tells Tommy, well, he's gonna die tonight. Everybody was like, maybe she was possessed like her daughter was, who killed, you know, the girls some years prior. So Tommy, you know, Cindy, who is Ziggy's older sister, and Tommy try to investigate, and it seems not too long later, Tommy does in fact become possessed. You see his name kind of go on the rock of names of all the serial killers from Shadyside, and he's the killer. So the character, I guess, made its first appearance in 1994, and I thought one of the cool things about that particular character was because he had the bag over his head and he kind of ran. And I'm like, it's one thing for a killer to move slow, it's a whole different ballgame when they start running, because now I feel like, oh, you're running now, that means I have to run even harder. You know, I'm not like, this was like 15-year-old me. I mean, I used to run, so that would be fine, but now, like, I don't know if I'm going to be really running. You know, I value my life and all, but I don't know if I'll be running. So anyway, Tommy starts killing kids, and the first kid, you know, person he killed was one of the other counselors. That was pretty gruesome, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. Right to it. It took a bit time for me. It took a little bit of time to get the killing started, and not that I want kids to get killed. It's just we're watching slasher type horror movies. I expect somebody to get stabbed up a bit. So the first guy that got killed was the counselor. I can't think of his name right now. My apologies for that. And then you see him killing kids. So I did respect the fact that the director of the movie didn't show any of the kids really get gorily stabbed. Like, we knew they were getting stabbed, and you mostly saw the killer's motions. Tommy, like, doing the swinging, but you didn't see any of the kids getting killed gruesomely, like how some of the gruesome scenes were in 1994 or some other horror movies where teens get killed really badly. They didn't really do that with the children, and I guess because they were children, that was why, and I appreciated that. I was like, all right, let's respect the children. They could have very well be like, F these kids, but they didn't, and I appreciated that. So long story short, a lot of kids do die, and you see at the end of the movie, you know, some of the killers once again kind of resurrect, like before in 1994, and poor Cindy winds up getting killed. You know, her and Ziggy's kind of holding hands and some kind of nice sister, little symbol of sister and being together, and she dies, and Ziggy is the one who's left. So by the end of the movie, Ziggy is telling Dina and Josh that this is what happened to her and her sister Cindy at Camp Nightwing in 1978, when the killer Tommy went loose and killed some kids. So we're kind of like, oh, okay. Like, by the end of the movie, for me at least, I'm just like, all right. Why I didn't particularly like it as much as I liked 1994, and I felt it took way too long to get started with the action, and I felt like Cindy was really stupid the whole movie, and she was really irritating my soul. I did not like the kid Nick, who was like one of the counselors as well, but he was also like Cindy's friend, and he seemed like he really cared. Well, I don't know if I want to call. I guess I want to say he's a counselor because he seemed like he was the same age as Ziggy, but then he kind of seemed like his attitude was a bit like maybe Cindy's age. But anyway, I didn't really care about him. He just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know what it was at the time. This is before we get to the next movie. So my gut about him was kind of right because I really just I wasn't feeling his character. So I didn't really like this part. I think this is my least favorite part of the three. So I'm now going to talk about Fear Street 3, part 3, 1666. So in the beginning of that movie, you see Dina holding Sarah Fier bone, the hand bone, over her body, and we're transported to 1666, and we see Sarah Fier's story from Dina's eyes. So the settlement is the settlement before it got split into two, which was Shadyside and Sunnyvale. Sarah Fier lived in the settlement with her brother Henry, and there was Pastor Cyrus Miller, who happened to be the first Shadyside serial killer, who had a daughter named Hannah, and all of that. So in the beginning of the movie, you see them living the life back then, the settlement where you have well water and the little houses, the little community, and they're growing vegetables and fruit, and there's animals, etc., etc. So there's a party where one of the townsmen named Caleb tried to push up on Hannah, and Sarah is the one who kind of stops that. So they run off somewhere into the woods, and they're talking, and then they start to kiss, and there's a moment. Now, everybody knows back in the settlement type times, being gay, being a lesbian, even engaging in anything will be considered evil and not of God. And it was always, every little thing back then was you had to be a witch. It was always some nonsense like that. Like, even if you knew how to read a book, you was a witch. And I'm a reader, so I jokingly tell people all the time, like, I guess if I lived back then, I would have probably been burned at the stake for a few things, because there's a lot of things I knew how to do that was considered witchcraft back then. But anyway, Sarah's, they're seen by somebody called Mad Thomas, who happened to be Tommy, the serial killer, in 1978. So anyway, the next day, it seemed like things in the settlement is going wrong. Food is not growing the same. There's some animals that's killed, I believe. The well, there was like a dead animal in the well, which means the water was contaminated. And Sarah was a bit worried that because she engaged in this kiss with Hannah, that everything was like, sinful, and it was causing a problem with the land. When she goes into the church, she sees that Pastor Cyrus killed a bunch of children, including her brother Henry. And so this is where the story is. I'm like, all right, this is interesting. So by the end of the movie, Sarah kind of confesses to Solomon that, she didn't do anything. It really wasn't her. Like, she's not the one causing all these issues. And Solomon says, well, I believe you. Come to find out, it is Solomon who, made a deal with the devil, and so every so often he will have to sacrifice somebody, which wound up being the people from Shadyside. And so he's the person who sacrificed Pastor Miller, since this is Cyrus Miller, this is where everything started. So he sacrificed Pastor Cyrus to kill these kids, and then in fact make it as if everything was going wrong when he did it. In turn, when Sarah found this out, Solomon turned on her and accused that she confessed that she did all these things. And of course, because they was already blaming her as it is, and they were already accusing her of witchcraft, she was hung. And so at the end of that part of 1666, she's pretty much speaking like Solomon and his family will always remember, and he will always be haunted by what the truth was. And the truth was, it wasn't Sarah Fier. Sarah Fier wasn't a witch. She wasn't doing terrible things. And it was Solomon this whole time. And then you kind of see some like backpedaling that Solomon is like the great grandfather who happened to be Sheriff Nick, the Nick from 1994, the sheriff of, the towns, and also little camp counselor Nick, who I was always wondering why he was out there while killing was happening and he did not get killed. Because I was how are you out here just in the wilderness and supposedly saving children, and all these children died and you were supposed to be saving them? Like, it made no sense to me. But it come to find out, there seems to be a whole family that just been doing this years and years, past generation of, they made this deal, so every so often they would do a ritual, and somebody would become possessed and kill some people in Shadyside. So by the end of 1666, we are now at part 2 of 1994. So it shows Dina finally realizes that the Good family is responsible for all the Shadyside curse that's been happening all these years. It's always the first burn of each generation repeat the ritual that was started by Solomon Good all those years ago in 1666. So Dina tells Josh she go get Ziggy, you know, who had to deal with 1978, and Martin, who works in the mall, that we're going to get rid of Sheriff Nick Good, as they should. Personally, I really wanted the kid with the mask and the bat to beat up Nick Good or be the one to kill him, because it's like, how shitty of a person you gotta be to do a real ritualistic practice and you pick a kid to do it. Like, he's a child. And maybe the child was deformed and maybe he already had a bad life, and that's fine, but you made him a killer for no reason, for your little family ritual or whatever the case may be. I was sad about that. I wanted the kid so bad to just beat up Nick Good. We didn't get that, but I really wanted that. I know that sounds really evil and all, but like, you just turned this poor kid to a serial killer, or he killed his family, and you guys would like slept well knowing that. And I didn't really like it so much. I really wanted this kid to be the one to kill Sheriff Good. But anyway, they plan to get Sheriff Nick Good to the mall, so when he brought back the past serial killers, they can kind of trap them and have the killers kill him instead. However, as movies go, it didn't work exactly like that. And at one point in the movie, I really thought that Nick Good was gonna he was gonna escape once again, but by the end, Dina is able to kill Sheriff Nick Good, and the curse of Shadyside is broken. So it finally starts showing like the news articles and news reports that Nick Good and his family are being exposed for what they were. And there were some of the family members like, oh, I had no idea this was happening. Like, are we gonna lie? Like, clearly this passed down generations. Solomon Good made this deal in 1666, and y'all, all the firstborns did it. So are you gonna sit here and act like you didn't? Okay, you reaped all the good benefits of the family doing this. You guys had money, you had good lives, and poor Shadyside community members did not. So y'all was lying, you knew. But it was finally exposed to how terrible they were, and it seemed like the curse was finally broken, until mid-credits at the end, we see somebody snatches the Widow Satanic book, which implies, maybe it's not over. Maybe somebody's going to start this all over again. Maybe it's some other good family member that we don't know about yet that might pop up. Or it might be completely done, and we're really just done with all the movies. Now, like I said in the first video about Fear Street, when I did 1994, I've always been a fan of the Fear Street series. I'm a big bookworm. I loved Goosebumps, but Fear Street was, again, much more gritty, much more horrendous, and you're just like, oh, this is terrible, but it's amazing at the same time. And I know that sounds really weird, but I'm a weirdo, and you know, I like horror movies like more than most people, and I like horror books more than most people, and Stephen King is everything. So just saying, I was that weird child who loved all the Fear Street books. So it was nice to see how they were gonna pull this off. Were there things I would have wished was different? Of course I do. I had a whole different like thing, I guess, in my head, but I like that they continued the story, and for 3 parts of the movie, I like that I was pleasantly surprised by the 1666 version, and adding 1994 part 2 to finish up the story made number 3 actually my best one of the 3. I felt like it was 1666, 1994, and 1978, if you want to put it in order. So you guys in the comments, please tell me what you think. If you watch Fear Street, what do you think about it? What do you think about the books? Would you read the books now? Because, you know, if you do, you can totally just message me, and I will totally be like, yes, let's discuss, because amazing. But tell me what you think in the comments. I can't wait to read them. Thank you so much for watching my video, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Until then,